and welcome to God Hour Live. Mm, Very much morning. I do hope that AirPod, EarPod, whatever they're called, thing in my ear will help with some of the ambient noise that the drive-by truckers and stuff may add to today's stream. And since it is fairly early, we're not going to just dive straight in. We'll go ahead and get the boilerplate stuff out of the way. Uh, First of all, none of the products that you might see me using or wearing or anything like that are to be interpreted as an endorsement of said products, especially not nicotine products. So to be clear, I'm receiving no funding from Starbucks. Quite the contrary, Starbucks is receiving funding from me to an unhealthy degree, I would say. But I'm here at our little country store waiting for them to release the coffee. Sorry, a little bit of a Clash of the Titans reference there. But today's subject matter is going to be Isaiah 41. And again, with the boilerplate stuff. Um, I'm not a preacher, pastor, minister, reverend, bishop, cardinal, uh, pope, saint, none of the above. Nothing, no ordained member of any clergy. I am, on the other hand, a sinner, a Christian, and a man from Alabama. And a disciple. I will take that title. Because what is a disciple? A disciple is a student, and in the religious sense, a disciple is also somebody that makes disciples, and that is my goal as a Christian, to study the Word and try to share what I've learned, and in hopes it will be passed along. And in doing so, hopefully learn more from others in fellowship. Good morning, all. So with that being said, don't interpret anything that I've interpreted as being the final word. It is just me reading and ascertaining from the subject matter, Bible in this case, what I make of it. And Isaiah 41, King James Version, as is my wont, verse 1. Uh, I don't know, it may be proper to recap a little bit of the previous stuff that's happened in Isaiah, which has been a lot of doom and gloom in the first 30 some odd chapters. Um, Most recently, the death of King Hezekiah, uh, and also the postponing of the death of Hezekiah by the Lord, who gave him specifically 15 extra years to live, and also made the shadow of the sundial go back 10 degrees as a sign. Now, the tone of the book has shifted uh, rather than chapters starting with the bit of woe to thee, and this is what Isaiah the son of Amos said. Chapters have now started to basically be probably a different author chronicling this. Isaiah 40 was like that, and 41. It just jumps right in the context of God speaking rather than Isaiah speaking on the behalf of God, which is still what's going on, but rather than preface it like that, they're saying they're not adding that preamble to it. So let's take a few verses of the scripture. Verse 1. Keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. Let them come near, and let them speak. Let us come near together to judgment. Who raised up the righteous man from the east, called him to his foot, gave the nations before him, and made him rule over kings. He gave them as the dust to his sword, and as driven stubble to his bow, or perhaps bow. I'm not quite sure in this context, but the righteous man raised up from the east, I believe, would be David, King David, who raised up a shepherd and made him king, gave nations before him, as it says. Verse 3, he pursued them and passed safely, even by the way that he had not gone with his feet. Who hath wrought and done it, calling the generations from the beginning. Good morning. He would, for later viewers, ask for demands rather, to convince him that God is real. And that is not what I'm going to be trying to do here. I will make after the scripture reading portion about our life, we'll discuss personal testimony about I know that God is real, but your own experience will vary. Thank you, Fortitude, and good morning. So, if you'll indulge me to read the chapter, I'll happily share my testimony with you if you'd like. Who hath wrought and done it, calling the generations from the beginning? I, the Lord, the first, and with the last, I am He. The isles saw it and feared. The ends of the earth were afraid, drew near and came. They helped every one his neighbor, and every one said to his brother, Be of good courage. So the carpenter encouraged the goldsmith, and he that smootheth with the hammer him that smote the anvil, that is to say, the, the blacksmith. The carpenter encouraged the goldsmith, And he that smootheth with the hammer, I'm not sure what profession that would be talking about, but iron worker, perhaps, and him that smoked the anvil, we know those are blacksmiths, saying, It is ready for the soldering, and he fashioned it with nails, that it should not be moved. This is an interesting little passage in that the Isles saw it into the earth. Never mind that they helped everyone his neighbor, and everyone said to his brother, Be of good courage. That's something we don't see a lot of today. Now, where I am, in rural Alabama, we do see a lot of neighbors helping neighbors, and we don't see a lot of goldsmiths or a lot of gold, but we do see a lot of carpenters helping the iron workers or metal workers and masons and such. But not to dwell too long on that passage. Uh, Next little caption is the appeal to exiles. Verse 8. But thou, Israel, art my servant. Israel being the chosen people. Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend. And of course, Abraham's the origin of not only Christianity, but especially Judaism and Islam. All three of those religions tie their roots at Abraham. Abraham was formerly known as Abram, Abram, in the earlier part of the Bible. Later called Abraham, which is to say friend. I believe that in ancient Hebrew, when they add that am on the end of the word, that means friend. Uh, Now, I don't know a lot about ancient Hebrew. I am trying to learn, but I don't know anybody that actually speaks it, so I'm having to figure it out as I go. Documentaries, YouTube videos, things like that. Maybe one day I'll find a book, Ancient Hebrew for Dummies. It would be certainly something written for me. Verse 9. Thou, whom I have taken from the ends of the earth, and called thee from the chief man thereof, and said unto thee, Thou art my servant. I have chosen thee, and not cast thee away. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Behold, all they that were incensed against thee shall be ashamed and confounded. They shall be as nothing, and they that strive with thee shall perish. And I'd like to reiterate again that this latter half of the book of Isaiah is a much more positive tone message than the doom and gloom, woe to this nation, woe to that nation that we did for the first 37 chapters or so. Where was I at? Let's go with verse 12. Thou shalt seek them and shalt not find them, even them that contended with thee. They that war against thee shall be as nothing, and as a thing of naught. For I, the Lord thy God, will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, Fear not, I will help thee. Fear not, thou worm Jacob, and ye men of Israel. Calls Jacob a a worm, but tells him to fear not. I will help thee, saith the Lord, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. Behold, I will make thee a new sharp threshing instrument having teeth. Thou shalt thresh the mountains and beat them small, and shalt make the hills as chaff. That is, to put that in a modern frame of mind, a new sharp threshing instrument having teeth that threshes mountains and beats them down. I'm thinking of a big caterpillar, earth moving equipment. Like they got one that looks like a gigantic chainsaw, and hearing something like that, it's probably not what God was talking about, but who knows? Thou shalt fan them, and the wind shall carry them away, and the whirlwind shall scatter them. And thou shalt rejoice in the Lord, and shalt glory in the Holy One of Israel. Shalt thresh the mountains, and beat them small, shall make the hills as chaff, is the flaky garbage part of the wheat, when harvest the wheat crop. And the Lord is promising capability to do that, to beat down the mountains and scatter them in the wind. In verse 17, when the poor and needy seek water, and there is none, and their tongue faileth for thirst, I, the Lord, will hear them. I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. I will open rivers in high places, and fountains in the midst of the valleys. I will make the wilderness a pool of water, and the dry land springs of water. I will plant in the wilderness the cedar, the shittah tree, and the myrtle, and the oil tree. I will set in the desert the fir tree, and the pine, and the box tree together, that they may see, and know, and consider, and understand together, that the hand of the Lord hath done this, and the Holy One of Israel hath created. Very positive message compared to the way it's been before now. In any case, next passage is called Challenge to Nations. Produce your cause, saith the Lord. Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the King of Jacob. Let them bring them forth, and shew us what shall happen. Let them shew the former things, what they be, that we may consider them, and know the latter end of them, or declare us things for to come. And I'm reading the King James Version, very much Middle English. It's not the ancient Hebrew by any means, uh, but it's the closest, the oldest translation. King James Version originally. Pardon me, alarm clock's going on. The King James Version, like I say, is originated 1611. It's like the oldest English translation. Maybe not the oldest, but it's the closest thing we've got to the original Aramaic, Hebrew, Greek, and other languages that the Bible was originally written down in. On that note, as it says in Genesis in English, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And I can see why that would confuse anybody. Uh, but if you take it in its Greek context, in the beginning was Logos, Logos. It's a word that means knowledge. In the beginning, there was knowledge, the word knowledge, and the knowledge was God. To say there was In the beginning, there was a consciousness, something, a knowledge, a brain, not a physical brain, but something that thought, that was capable of thinking. Um, it makes a little more sense than in the beginning there was written word because man created written word. And, it took many years before we learned to write. So I struggled with that concept of how in the beginning was the Word and the Word was God until I thought about it from the Greek perspective of what the word means, or logos. Biology, Logy, derives from that. Bio means life, Logy, knowledge about life, biology. Same with pharmacology, theology, and so on. Uh, but the continued scripture, challenge the nations. Produce your cause, saith the Lord. Bring forth your strong reason, saith the King of Jacob. Let them bring forth and shew us what shall happen. Let them shew the former things, what they be, that we may consider them, and know the latter end of them, or declare us things for to come. Shew the things that are to come hereafter, that we may know that ye are gods, God's plural, lowercase God. Yea, do good or do evil, that we may be dismayed and behold it together. Behold, ye are of nothing, and your work of naught. An abomination is he that chooseth you. This is an interesting thing, and this is God speaking, quoting scripture. I realize that if you're not Christian or religious, that you would probably disagree that this is God speaking. But hear me out, if you will. Notice that it says, do good or do evil. In other words, you have free will. You're not to be, you're not to be a slave to God. God could have easily made us into slaves. But our God is a loving God who wants us to serve Him willingly. And a lot of people find serving to be, for some reason, insulting, or they don't like to be in the service industry, and which is the industry I work in, retail. Uh, but there is honor in serving. There's honor in any work, for that matter. Uh, verse 25: I have raised up one from the north, and he shall come. From the rising of the sun shall he call upon my name, and he shall come upon princes as upon mortar, and as the potter treadeth clay. Who hath declared from the beginning, that we may know, and before time, that we may say, He is righteous? Yea, there is none that sheweth. Yea, there is none that declareth. Yea, there is none that heareth your words. The first shall say to Zion, Behold, behold them, and I will give them to Jerusalem one that bringeth good tidings. For I beheld, and there was no man, even among them, and there was no counselor, that, when I asked of them, could answer a word. Behold, they are all vanity, their works are nothing, their molten images are wind and confusion. It's interesting that this little passage is captioned Challenge to Nations. says, produce your cause. Tell me why it is that you keep you keep making these images. Like the Jewish people have constantly been going to worshiping idols, graven, sculpted idols, uh, notably the golden calf that they created Moses was on Sinai, I believe, and some Karate Kid stuff right there. Uh, Almost like that God is perplexed. Like, I created you, but you keep creating new things to worship, and these things that you worship don't exist. They're just statues, and I guess the people had trouble attributing all of everything to be within God's scope. That they had to create lesser deities to, be in charge of different things. And indeed, in uh, some Christian sects, SECTS, you will see that angels, certain angels, are given charge of certain things, but they are not gods. In fact, angels are less than humans. Uh, but the angels are the servants of the Lord, the messengers, and the spiritual warriors uh, that are constantly warring with the forces of evil, which includes the angels of evil, also known as demons. A third of the host of the angels fell from grace and were led by Lucifer, who later became known as Satan, which in Hebrew translates simply to adversary. Satan is not the devil's name. Uh, it's just a way of saying he is the enemy. This is the first bit of scripture. I can see behind me by looking at the screen here. So anything that's behind me, I can see it at all times. So you're talking about that UFO. I know it's there. What am I on? Old man. Here is man-made. Hey, am I on? Not much sleep. I'm just waking up and starting my day. Uh, RSO for the world. I'm afraid I don't know Daniel Larson. Prison age. No, I will share that little bit of personal testimony. Uh, I'm 43, and I was prematurely aged because in 2010 I was in a horrible car accident that broke every bone in my face, and not just my face, but also my back, my shoulder, my several ribs, punctured a lung, broke tibia and fibula on one leg, shattered the ankle on the other, broke several toes, knocked out several teeth, uh, and so on, and had me in a coma for about a month, and then a wheelchair and a walker for about 6 months after that. badge, uh, written off as permanently disabled for the rest of my life. And I didn't want that. God didn't have that in plan for me. So he healed me, and I got back to work. So you're right. I am prematurely aged. I was broken, shattered, rebuilt. And when you rebuild things like that, they tend to give a vibe about them, a repurposed vibe. And I have been repurposed because I was 27 when that happened. And now I live a much different life. Uh, I'm not a saint, as I said at the beginning. I'm a sinner. I have my vices, nicotine being one of them. Uh, I got hooked on all manners of painkillers. Uh, they were doling them out, about a bucket load back then. Uh, so I was wearing fentanyl patches and had bottles of OxyContin, Roxycodone, Dilaudid, Percocet, even some Norco for some reason. And MS scattered around my bed and my wheelchair. And you know, five of my six doctors are saying, make sure your pain never gets too high because you don't want it to, you know, you don't want it to get to the breakthrough point. But if it does, here's your immediate release oxycodone, 30 milligrams, roxycodone for that, or if that doesn't work, try adding some Dilaudid to it, and keep this fentanyl patch on for 72 hours at a time. And so I got hooked. I mean, it's kind of hard not to get hooked. Uh, Now, I've never been to actual prison. I've done some stints in county jails, mind you. Some of them that were almost prison quality. Some of them, I think, were actually prisons a little more user friendly. They at least let you have a cigarette in prison without you having to sneak it. But a inmate's jail will teach you many things, not just how to make a burrito on a radiator. But one county jail I was in, first night I was there, some guy insisted I needed to be taught how to cook meth. And I didn't really want to know. Meth was never my drug of choice. I was an opioid man. Uh, and later that segued into heroin. But then a few years later, my mother was diagnosed terminally ill. Uh, so I moved back here to Alabama to take care of her. She passed, and I got myself in a program, uh, the methadone program to start with. And I worked the program the right way. I didn't want to be one of those people that steal medication from a dying loved one. Uh, I promised myself I would not stoop to that level, pinching pills from a dying mother. So I got myself in the methadone program, worked it, got it to the point where I only had to do two clinic visits a month. Just to say I got 14 take homes, which is, anybody knows anything about the methadone program, That's start out where you have to come every single morning, and that was an hour drive at 5 a.m. every single morning to go get that dose of medication. After 90 days of that, they would let me take 2 doses home. So that was 2 trips a week. And then after 90 days of that, they would give me 3 doses to take home. And after 90 days of that, they would give me 7 days worth of medication to take home. And 90 days of that, they give me 14, which is the top tier of the methadone program. Now, Sim CYNN boss says he or she going through his or her first job. I'm happy for you. I'd like to think that you're not very old if it's your first job. Uh, I got my first job, my first real, like on a payroll, not for, not cutting grass for people and that kind of stuff. But when I was 17, I moved out, live on my own. Uh, at Sonic. Back then, Sonic was a lot different. The drive-in place with all the milkshakes and stuff, and the very good onion rings back then. This was in 2000, 1999, 2000, 2000. I graduated class of 2000. Anyway, we read through uh, chapter 41, was it, of Isaiah. It's a short chapter. 42 is also a short chapter. So we're going to continue with chapter 42. Because the store doesn't open for another 10 minutes for me to get my cup of coffee and go open my, my my store that corporate owns. Isaiah 42, verse 1, caption, Behold my servant, behold my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. Thinking about that a little bit. He shall not cry. He's not going to bring attention to himself. Verse 3. A bruised reed shall he not break, and the smoking flax shall he not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail nor be discouraged till he have set judgment in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his law. Sounding to me, prophecy of Jesus. Thus saith God the Lord, He that created the heavens and stretched them out, He that spread forth the earth and that which cometh out of it, He that giveth breath unto the people upon it, and spirit to them that walk therein. I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven image. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. You might not know what a Gentile is. It's basically just a non-Jewish person. Hearing prophecy, uh, things to come, that what God is, and Judaism is the original religion uh, that's going to extend out into all the people of the world and be brought into the fold instead of just the Jewish people being the chosen people, the only ones who offer salvation to everybody, Jewish and non-Jewish. And that, of course, is where Christianity splits off from Judaism. But that's on down the road. We're in Isaiah, which is the Old Testament, some 400 BC, I believe. Verse 10. Sing unto the Lord a new song, and his praise from the end of the earth, ye that go down to the sea, and all that is therein, the isles and the inhabitants thereof. Let the wilderness and the cities thereof lift up their voice, the villages that Kedar doth inhabit. I don't know what Kedar is. Like I said, I'm just an ignorant guy from Alabama. Let the inhabitants of the rock sing. Let them shout from the top of the mountain. Let them give glory unto the Lord, and declare his praise in the islands. The Lord shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man. He shall cry, yea, roar. He shall prevail against his enemies. I have long time holden my peace. I have been still and refrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman, just to say a woman giving birth. I will destroy and devour at once. I will make waste mountains and hills, and dry up all their herbs. And I will make the rivers islands, and I will dry up the pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them, and not forsake them. They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say to the molten images, Ye are our gods. Hear ye, deaf, and look, ye blind, that ye may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant? These are questions given in question format. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant? There's some stuff coming from translation there, but just continue. We're almost at the end of the chapter here. Verse 20. Seeing many things, but thou observest not, opening the ears, but he heareth not. The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none deliver it, for a spoil, and none saith, Restore. Who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken and hear for the time to come? Who gave Jacob for a spoil, and Israel to the robbers. Uh, Not to insult anybody's intelligence, but a spoil is loot, usually considered to be looted or treasure won after a battle. Spoil. But it's a prize. Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. Therefore he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger, and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on fire round about. Yet he knew not, and it burned him, yet he laid it not to heart. What I've gathered from this last paragraph is the Lord has shown his powerful, fearsome side many times. Gave Jacob the spoil, gave Israel to the robbers. Did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. Therefore the Lord poured upon him the fury of his anger and the strength of battle, and it has set him on fire round about. Yet he knew not, and it burned him, yet he laid it not to heart. So we're going to conclude there. That's the end of Isaiah 42. Um, and making a lot of reference to deafness and blindness, and how just because you're able to see and hear doesn't mean you're able to listen and truly see. Uh, 2 minutes, they're going to have my coffee available to me. In any case, that's a couple chapters of scripture to start my day. I hope everybody else has a great day, as I'm planning to. And catch up on this at a later time. I would encourage you to look at some of the special I did on YouVersion Bible app. I'm growing more and more weary of that app, especially now seeing how it's performing or failing to perform. And also, um, if you have anything like a prayer request, you can admin at godhour.org for confidentiality purposes, or anything you might be struggling with, might want someone to talk to about. That's just something I offer to people. For I am in a interestingly, ironically fortunate position that I have no parents, siblings, children, uh, wife, anything, anybody that I'm responsible for. As such, I have a freedom that most people my age do. I've already buried both of my parents. I was not blessed with a sibling. So it's me, not against the world, it's me with the world. But I have a lot of great people in my life, and I have God and my extension, Jesus, in my life. So I'm happy. I am content. God bless you all. See you soon. I gotta get to work.